Welcome to the award-winning Saints Happy Hour podcast. Seriously, this podcast has won awards. American standards are dropping every day. The show features Ralph, the best host in the world, who can barely pronounce his own name, much less anyone else's.
Marcus Callaway.
Dave is that dude who loves taking bathroom breaks. He's mad about almost anything, so make sure to lower your volume when he speaks.
Put that freaking clown meme back up that I made. Jesus Christ.
Andrew has sources, watches tapes, and knows football. He rarely shows up on time and wants to commit crimes to help the Saints win.
Sean Payton would have done illegal things. Don't tell me I'm wrong, because you know it's true.
Oh, and there's also Kevin, who is great at doing mock drafts, but struggles to actually watch Saints games or have a functioning relationship.
Budrich wants to know how the doctor's doing.
That ended.
Anyway, grab a drink, sit back, and enjoy the insanity.
All right, everybody, welcome to another edition of Saints Happy Hour podcast. We are on the YouTubes. If you watch us on the YouTubes, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, go to saintshappyhour.com, become a patron, and make your Saints fan experience the best it's going to be in 2023. The Saints are going to be awesome. This podcast, we got a cool thing set up for you. You can become a patron at any level. And Kevin, by the way,
Yes.
they get access to our Discord, where we're talking Saints 24/7, your mock draft channel, which will kick off eventually. And
In January of 2024.
yeah, and they get access to every podcast we do commercial free. People hate the commercials, but the commercials pay bill. But patrons, you don't get any commercials ever. We edit them out for you. It's a mailbag time, and Thomas gets the questions that we can't get to on the live stream because people send us great questions, and we don't have enough time to get to them all.
A lot of
And
questions.
A lot of questions. Thomas keeps them, and we do mailbag segments, and it's been one of our more popular things we've been doing since I wrangled Kevin into the daily shows. So Thomas is here, as always, running the show back in Poland. Thomas, the mailbag questions, what do you got for us today? Do we have good quality questions today?
I would say 7 out of 10, maybe 8,
right.
something like that in quality.
All right, well, hit us up.
All right, first question from Biloxi Blues, saved from a couple weeks ago, I think. A soft one to start it off. Do you think Charger fans still claim Drew Brees as a Charger when he enters the Hall of Fame? Some Saints fans still claim Willie Rowe, Sam Mills, and Morten Anderson.
We should all well. Here's the thing: San Diego or the Chargers trying to claim Drew Brees, that would be dumb. But the Saints claiming Willie Rowe, Sam Mills, and Morten Anderson that's right. Whatever. No one cares about the Chargers. The Saints claiming those three guys, Kevin, is totally fair. Like, those guys were really great for the Saints. And by the way, Carolina just usurping Sam Mills and taking him as theirs and building him a statue out front of their stadium. I kind of hate it. I know they love him, and he died tragically of cancer and all that, but he was ours, and they just took him. They just flat out took him. See, Sam Mills is Carolina's now, and it makes me mad.
You're right. This is a softball question, and it's a very easy question.
Fucking illegal.
Any Chargers fan that wants to claim Drew Brees is an idiot, and like, hey man, the team got rid of him for Phillip Rivers, so y'all made a decision there, and plus Drew Brees ended up playing far more time with the Saints than he did with the Chargers, just like Morten Anderson spent more time with the Saints than the other 4 teams he played for combined. He spent 13 years with the Saints, 8 for Atlanta, 2 for the Chiefs, 1 for the Vikings, and 1 for the Giants. Sam Mills, who Carolina built a statue for, and who look, the Saints probably ought to put something for him out in front of the Superdome too. They ought to do that for a lot of people. He spent 3 years with the Panthers. He spent 9 with the Saints.
Yeah.
Willie Rowe, 9 years with the Saints, 4 with the Chiefs. Now he was, what does that mean? He made the Pro Bowl the 4 years he was with the Chiefs, and I think he was like an AP.
He was all decade.
First team All-Pro all 4 years.
He was all decade team 2 separate times in the 90s and the 2000s.
And the funny thing is he retired in 2005. So how great do you have to be to make the all-decade team when you only played in half the thing?
That's right. That's how good he was.
I'm sorry, 6 years, because we count.
That's how good he was. That's how good he was. Both places. Like Willie Rolfe was just ridiculous. Day one, they dropped it. They dropped him in at right tackle, and they're like, "Oh yeah, he's amazing." But to wrap this up, I'm still. You're right. The Saints should be like the Saints. Gale should have a secret task force, and their job should be to reclaim Sam Mills from Carolina. I don't know if it takes statues, more Ring of Honor, videos, whatever. We need to reclaim Sam Mills from Carolina. That's cool. It just annoys me that he's like when people say Sam Mills, fans that have never seen him play, they're like, oh, he's the Carolina linebacker with the statue, and it's annoying. So, Thomas, what's next?
All right, next question from Saints Rabbit, the legend. What NFC South rivals disappointing scenario would give you the most pleasure? In example, Tampa's QB sadness being a season-long embarrassment.
Oh, this is a good question. It's a good question.
You want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
You go first.
My answer, my default answer will always be the Falcons.
Yeah.
So the Falcons just, everybody talks about how good their how good their defense is going to be.
Yeah.
You jump in.
I was going to say the most pleasure you get, and this one's a tricky one, the Saints, Rabbit. This is a great question, but this is a tricky one. But this is going to sound weird. The most pleasure that I will get from Atlanta or Tampa being terrible is not them being so terrible that they pick first, because then they get Caleb Williams and they could be good for a decade, right? The most enjoyable scenario, Kevin, is they're just sad all year long. They're like 1-13. Desmond Ritter's a disaster, injuries. It just ain't working out for Atlanta. And they're like 1-12. But they finished the season winning like 3 of their last 4 and pushed themselves just out of drafting a quarterback. Of course, their strong finish would need to include not beating the Saints, but that's the funnest, most sad scenario where these teams are bad, but not bad enough to get good quarterbacks to fix themselves.
Then if we're going with that, then I will amend my statement slightly because I never actually set a record, but I would say 6-11.
Yeah.
That keeps them out of that should keep them out of the top 5.
That's right.
For draft picks. That should keep them out of the top 5. And it should give them, depending on how they stack up the 6-11, could give them just enough reason to keep trying and keep fighting and keep doing this and that. And like, if we do this and maybe some things break our way, much like the Saints were last year.
Yeah.
Where, we're still hanging around. The South is this or the South is that. Hopefully the Saints can run away a bit with the division, but maybe they look around and say, maybe we got a shot at a wild card if we make a bunch of moves here or there. So they played just well enough to make bad decisions at the trade deadline, and none of them pan out. And then they finish the year 6-11, 5-12, 7-10, something like that. Meanwhile, the Saints are comfortable at like 11-6, and
Another scenario that would be incredibly enjoyable, and I just thought of this one: Atlanta being really, really bad and being able to pick a quarterback would actually be fun because we'd get to dunk on the nerds because they've loved Atlanta, right? Atlanta's tore it down and had cap space and set everything up perfectly. So if they go like 3-14, we can make fun of the nerds as the Saints win. And we can dunk on Atlanta again for being like, you had $80 million of cap space, you spent it, and you went freaking backwards. Why don't you send Arthur Smith back to FedEx and get a real coach? Like that, I think that would be the most fun scenario. I take it all back. Atlanta just being an absolute dumpster fire. this year. I want that joy this year. I'll worry about them getting a quarterback and being good next year, whatever. I want the Atlanta to be an absolute dumpster fire. Your original answer, Kevin, was the correct one. Thomas, what's next?
Next question, also from Saints Rabbit. A long one. Age aside, which former terrible Saint would you love to see on a rival team ruining their hopes and dreams in 2023? An example, Brendan Browner on the Falcons or Billy Joe Tolliver as the Bucs QB?
That's a good question. It's a good question. I mean, there's so many, Kevin.
Okay. Toast. Who was Toast? Toy Cook. Yeah. So give me Toy Cook on the Falcons. Give me Ted Gregory with the Bucs.
Wow.
And give me Jonathan Sullivan on the Panthers.
Wow. You know what would be the most fun? And I like him as a person. He's a very nice person. He does a lot of nice things in the community.
Oh, boy.
Danny Werfel on the Falcons this year would just be amazing because their offensive line might not be as good as they think. And he would just torpedo that offense. Troy Davis getting carries for any team in the NFC South, not the Saints, would be hilarious. And I'm trying to think of Sean Knight, who he was so bad the Saints traded him for Ted Gregory, who you mentioned. He would be fun. I've got it. Stanley Jean-Baptiste, starting corner, Atlanta Falcons.
Plantiste.
The Plantiste. That's my answer. Stanley Jean-Baptiste starting at corner and crushing Atlanta's hopes and dreams that their secondary will be competent, and he just gets turned into barbecue. Turned into barbecue chicken every week.
Mentally
barbecue
sick.
Chicken. All right, Thomas, what's next?
All right, final question of the show from Agnes. And this is a question for me. Thomas question.
That's right. We have a new segment where we ask people in the Discord have been asking this, and patrons have been asking for this. They say, we want to know about Thomas. Is he real? Is he an AI-generated voice that Ralph and Kevin have cooked up? Is he a real person?
Chat GPT from the future.
Chat GPT from the future. And we went, Thomas is real. But they're like, well, if he's real, how come you don't know anything about him? I'm like, well, maybe we should start asking him questions. So now every once in a while in a mailbag, we'll ask Thomas questions about himself. And we'll try to figure out, is he a real person?
The GPT in Chat GPT stands for Great Polish Tomas.
Yeah.
That's right. All right,
Mystery
so what's the Thomas question today?
The question is, which of the guys on the podcast is the most tech illiterate?
Oh, come on, that's mean.
This is not that easy question, man. Like,
oh man,
the obvious question, the obvious answer would be you, right?
That's right.
Like that's what most people would say. Kevin, you can chime in also because you know what happens in the backstage. But I think this is a two-part question, and I would start with who's the most tech savvy from the four of you, and it is obviously between Kevin and Dave, right?
That's correct.
Right?
That's correct.
And this is a tight race, but I would have to give it to Kevin because Kevin is a nerd. And Dave, right. Dave knows Photoshop. Dave doesn't have problems. Like, it's easy to resolve any problem with Dave, I would say. But to this day, he still hasn't figured out the Twitch Prime. So, he has to take the second place. But contrary to popular belief, I wouldn't say it's Ralph, believe it or not.
Wow, upset.
I would say it's Andrew, but don't tell him. But don't tell it to Andrew.
Well, the thing is, people don't know behind the scenes. Andrew is belligerent against certain kinds of technology. He's belligerent where it's not necessarily that he doesn't know it. He's just, I'm not doing it.
Yeah, he doesn't want to do anything.
He doesn't want to do anything. So he's like a, what do they call those people, Kevin? A Luddite?
Luddite.
a Mason, a Luddite, a Mason. They were just like they want to churn their own butter and ride around in a wagon.
I don't think those are Masons. I think those are Amish people.
And so Andrew
Mennonites.
Mennonites, yeah. Andrew's like a Mennonite. He certain things in tech he doesn't like, and he won't do it, won't learn it, won't. He's like, no, I'm not doing it.
Ralph is illiterate, but he wants to learn. You know, he wants to do stuff. If I ask him for something, he wants to fix it. You know.
Yeah, like I got the better quality camera through my cell phone and wires, and we got little Oompa Loompas that run on a treadmill to power the cell phone camera. So
Ralph is always in the spotlight, so it's hard to pick on him.
So thanks, guys, and you can say, if you're getting the Discord, become a patron. You can get in our Discord, and then you can ask Thomas questions, and maybe your Ask Thomas question will be the one we use on the mailbag. So, guys, thanks for joining us. Thanks for supporting the show. If you're listening to this and you're not a patron, become a patron. God damn it, we need you. Support the show. So, for Kevin, for Thomas back in Poland, running the show, brilliant as always, I'm Ralph. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, the bar is closed.